Welcome to Debate Combats, where tonight we ask whether Western governments should require big AI and social platforms to open their algorithms for transparency and public audits to ensure fairness online within the next 3 years. Around the world, regulators are weighing new rules, researchers are warning about biased feeds, and users keep asking why their timelines look the way they do. To keep this brisk, one team argues yes to mandated transparency and audit access, and the other warns that heavy rules could backfire. On the progressive side, the case is that sunlight, standardized disclosures, and independent audits are necessary for fair ranking, fair ads, and fair moderation. On the conservative side, the case is that forced disclosures risk gaming, piracy of trade secrets, higher costs, and weaker security for everyone. Let us begin with the affirmative. Progressive team, your opening statement, please.
We should mandate algorithmic transparency and qualified public audit access because people deserve to know how powerful systems shape news, jobs, and elections.
When users cannot see why posts are boosted or buried, discrimination can hide in the code, so audits act like seatbelts that quietly save lives.
Transparency does not mean dumping source code. It means standardized documentation, impact reports, and reproducible tests that reveal bias rates and error margins.
Think of food labels, because no one needs the secret recipe to learn sugar content, yet that label helps families make safer choices.
Independent researchers and regulators should be able to run red team tests on ranking and recommendation, checking whether harmful patterns keep slipping through.
If a platform says its system treats creators fairly, then letting outside experts verify that claim turns a promise into proof.
Firms that already invest in fairness will benefit from clear rules, since audits create a level field and reward those who meet the standard.
Users gain trust when platforms speak plainly about risks, and advertisers gain confidence that audiences are reached without hidden skew.
The timeline matters, and 3 years gives companies time to build disclosure pipelines, watermark evaluation logs, and privacy-preserving sandboxes for audits.
Rights can be balanced with business by using tiered access, safe rooms, and penalties for leaking proprietary details, so secrecy fears should not block justice.
Without mandates, voluntary efforts arrive late or vanish when profits tighten, but baseline law keeps the floor steady for everyone.
This is not about punishing innovation, it is about steering it, because fair systems scale better, break less, and serve more of us.
Thank you, progressive team, and now the negative may present its case.
Mandating transparency sounds noble, but it creates perverse incentives where bad actors learn exactly how to game ranking, recommendation, and content filters.
Once cheaters crack the pattern, vulnerable users get flooded with spam and scams, and ordinary people pay the price while regulators shrug.
Public audit access also exposes proprietary models and inference tricks that took years to develop, turning hard-earned know-how into a free playbook for rivals.
If a platform lays out its guardrails in detail, hostile states and troll farms will simply route around them, and that is not fairness, that is surrender.
Compliance costs will hit smaller firms the hardest, chilling competition and locking in the giants the policy claims to tame.
Creators could suffer when cautious algorithms overfilter to pass audits, because the safest timeline is often the quietest one.
A one-size law across many services ignores context, since a photo app, a job board, and a medical forum face different risks and should not share the same template.
Instead of hard mandates, incentives for voluntary certifications, liability shields for good faith disclosures, and targeted enforcement against proven harms make more sense.
3 years is not generous when the stack keeps changing monthly, and rigid rules will freeze designs that should stay agile.
Trust grows when companies earn it through performance and user choice, not when they are forced to reveal blueprints that make everyone less safe.
Let markets and existing laws handle fraud, discrimination, and safety, and keep algorithmic details guarded so the system remains resilient.
We want fairness too, yet we refuse to trade it for fragility, and we believe smarter, lighter touch tools can achieve both.
Progressive team, the floor is yours for a targeted strike.
Mandates work because secret rankings are like rigged dice, so audits are the only way to stop quiet bias from deciding who gets seen, hired, and hurt.
Conservative team, respond to that challenge.
Audits that expose system behavior give spammers a map, so the more you publish the rules, the faster crooks and propagandists run circles around them.
Negative. Launch your counteroffensive.
Transparency requirements will force brittle, checklist designs that pass tests but fail in the wild, and that is the oldest trick in compliance theater.
Affirmative. Answer that hit.
Well-designed mandates measure outcomes, not tricks, so if spam or hate surges after disclosure, the audit fails, the penalties trigger, and the public wins.
Negative. Escalate with a coordinated push.
If we reveal ranking signals and thresholds, actors with money will reverse engineer influence at scale, and small platforms without lawyers will drown under lawsuits.
Creators will also twist every knob to please the test, so feeds turn bland and weird, and the internet starts feeling like cafeteria broccoli forever.
Order please, affirmative. Your duo may strike back.
We are not proposing open blueprints, we are proposing standardized impact reports with third-party checks, and those check bias reach equity and harm rates.
When you measure disparate impact across language, region, and identity, you catch hidden skew early, you tune it down safely, and good content rises instead of noise.
Time. Negative. You may defend with a pair.
Outcome tests can punish legitimate moderation when bad actors claim discrimination, so platforms will overcorrect and suppress edgy but lawful speech.
If auditors can subpoena model internals, rivals will copy them by proxy, so innovation slows, costs spike, and the next startup never gets past the garage.
Affirmative. You have the mic for defense.
Independent audits can run in secure sandboxes with redacted features and privacy controls, so no useful blueprint leaves the room, while accountability still leaves a trail.
The real weakness is the status quo, because without a floor of rules, the worst actors race to the bottom, while the best actors get undercut for caring.
Judges, please share a brief midpoint assessment.
At this moment, I lean progressive because their framing of outcome-based audits protects creativity while chasing bias. Yet they must prove gaming will not get easier.
Right now I tilt conservative because they showed concrete pathways to adversarial exploitation, but they need a credible plan to fix bias without freezing progress.
I am slightly with the progressives since their seatbelt analogy landed, and the conservative side risks sounding fatalistic. Yet both teams should sharpen details on small firm support.
Round 2 begins. Negative team, find a new angle and attack.
Mandatory disclosures will clash across borders, so a patchwork of rules will trap companies between fines in one country and breaches in another.
Affirmative. Defend succinctly.
Interoperable standards can align like electrical codes, because global firms already meet diverse privacy rules without melting down.
Affirmative. Add pressure.
People deserve a simple answer to why their feed looks the way it does, and a basic audit label is that answer, in plain language.
Negative. Hold the line.
Plain labels rarely stay plain, so real systems change weekly, and the label will either mislead the public or force constant updates that break products.
Affirmative. Bring the two-person drive.
Leader to the point, fairness is not a vibe but a measurement, so platforms should publish confusion matrices, error bars, and bias deltas for key use cases.
Support to the point. Researchers can validate those reports with blinded test sets, and the audits can trigger only when drift crosses a clear threshold.
Negative. Counter with a two-person press.
Leader here. Once you memorialize thresholds, trolls will run automated probes until they find the edges, and then they will dance on those edges forever.
Support here. When you add heavy reporting, smaller services will over-allocate to paperwork, so only giants can keep up and everyone else vanishes.
Affirmative. I need defense from two voices.
Responder here. Audits can be risk-tiered, so small services face lighter rules until growth or harm scales up.
Provocateur here. If gaming is inevitable, then secrecy is not a shield, but an excuse, so why not let the defenders see the field and fix the holes faster?
Negative. Close this sequence with your final defensive pair.
Responder here. Secrecy is not cowardice. It is operational security, and it keeps guardrails from becoming instruction manuals for attackers.
Weakness pointer here. The affirmative still has not shown how to stop audit leaks or researcher capture by political interests that would weaponize the process.
Progressive side. A quick pass for a single precise strike.
Audit firms can be licensed, rotated, and randomly assigned with severe penalties for leaks, which is how we already handle sensitive financial reviews.
Negative, a crisp solo defense to that claim.
Financial audits compare books to receipts, yet algorithmic audits compare dynamic models to moving targets, so the analogy stretches past the breaking point.
Negative, launch a fresh solo attack.
If fairness is the goal, then mandate diverse training data and robust safety teams, but avoid telling every company to publish a menu for the hackers.
Affirmative, a single shield and counter.
Safety teams cannot police what leaders cannot see, so credible outside pressure is the guardrail that prevents fairness from becoming a press release.
Affirmative, deliver a solo jab.
Transparency with teeth separates hype from reality, because if you fear daylight, you probably know the room is a mess.
Negative, meet that with a solo shield.
Daylight is not a plan when the blueprint teaches burglars the route, and we cannot pretend the threat model is a school debate.
Affirmative duo, take the initiative.
Leader speaking. Users deserve agency, so a right to an explanation and an audit signal give people leverage to switch or complain with evidence.
Support speaking. With interoperable logs and secure test access, watchdogs can confirm whether vulnerable groups are unfairly throttled or profiled.
Negative duo, push back with force.
Leader responding. Explanations collapse into generic boilerplate once lawyers arrive, which helps no one and creates lawsuit bait instead of clarity.
Support responding. The moment you standardize logs, hostile actors will buy bot farms to farm green checkmarks, and the label loses meaning.
Affirmative duo, hold your ground and throw questions.
Responder here. If generic boilerplate is the risk, why not require layered explanations that adapt to context, complexity, and user expertise?
Provocateur here. If labels can be gamed, will you support penalties that scale with the damage when bad actors spoof compliance?
Negative duo, defend and expose a weakness.
Responder here. Scaled penalties will fall hardest on firms that report honestly, while shadow operations in unfriendly jurisdictions will ignore them and prosper.
Weakness pointer here. The affirmative keeps inventing sophisticated enforcement that requires perfect regulators, yet the real world is messy and political.
Progressive side, a tight solo clarification.
Regulators do not need to be perfect. They need to be visible and consistent, and a noisy yardstick beats a blindfold every single time.
Negative side, one precise solo reply.
Consistency without adaptability becomes a cage, and caged systems fail when the next unexpected attack hits.
Negative side, add a final solo thrust before we pivot.
We should invest in defensive research grants and rapid takedown powers, not in public scoreboards that turn into targets.
Affirmative, one solo shield to close this block.
Scoreboards that track harm and bias are not targets. They are thermometers, and ignoring the fever never cured the illness.
Judges, before we reset cadence, any quick pivots you want both teams to address next?
Show me how small creators gain or lose in each plan, because fairness that helps institutions but forgets voices is not fairness.
Convince me that enforcement will be humble, predictable, and cheap, since a solution that only billion-dollar firms can follow is not a solution.
Prove you can handle cross-border conflicts without endless court battles, because policy that lives in courtrooms dies in real life.
Negative, new angle as requested by the bench, and please keep it sharp.
Cross-border conflicts will multiply when national security exemptions collide with disclosure rules, so companies will either overshare or face accusations of hiding.
Affirmative, short defense on jurisdiction.
Mutual recognition deals and safe harbor for compliant disclosures can reduce friction because coordinated standards do not require identical laws.
Affirmative, give me a clean solo strike on creators.
Creators win when audits catch shadow bans and biased throttling, since a fair lane lets talent rise without guessing the secret handshake.
Negative, a solo defense on creators.
Creators also win when platforms can adapt quickly, and disclosure mandates will slow pivots that stop brigading or manipulation of trending lists.
Affirmative pair, final drive on enforcement design.
Leader here, create a public registry for audits, rank risk by impact, and rotate accredited auditors to cut capture and routine gaming.
Support here. Fund a small grant program so startups can meet light touch reporting with open source toolkits, turning burden into early hygiene.
Negative pair, match that with your closing press.
Leader closing. Every registry becomes a bureaucratic magnet that grows rules and shrinks freedom to build new ideas fast.
Support closing. If you pick winners through compliance checklists, the scrappy outsider with the fresh idea never gets past the paperwork wall.
Affirmative duo. Hold and return fire with questions.
Responder here. If paperwork is the fear, will you support simple templates and automatic reports that software can generate as a byproduct of development?
Provocateur here. If outsiders matter, why defend a status quo that hides gatekeeping behind proprietary curtains no one can challenge?
Negative duo. Defend and underline a final weakness.
Responder here. Proprietary curtains also block adversaries, and the right to invent privately is not a crime, but the engine of progress.
Weakness pointer here. The affirmative trusts, rotating auditors, yet captured or biased auditors can tilt the field, and the target community will suffer again.
Progressive side. A last solo for this chapter.
Rotate auditors, publish meta-audits of the auditors, and you reduce capture the same way we reduce error in science, by checking the checkers with evidence.
Negative side. One last solo reply to balance the ledger.
Science works because failure is cheap, but failure in global platforms can be catastrophic, so we cannot experiment with the brakes while the car is moving.
Thank you, teams, and thank you, judges, as we transition to audience questions and expert cross-checks in the next phase. Before we close, are there fresh angles or last words that either side feels the audience must hear?
Yes, we need to talk about how audits help catch silent errors that harm small creators who lack lawyers and loud followers.
We need to talk about how disclosure maps become roadmaps for people who weaponize attention and harass those same small creators.
If roadmaps were the issue, secrecy would have already made the internet safe, yet it clearly has not.
If secrecy fails sometimes, that does not mean we should publish the security manual for every lock on the street.
We are not publishing manuals, we are validating outcomes, so the locks we already use do not shut out the wrong people.
Outcome tests still leak intent, and intent guides adversaries the same way shadows reveal the shape of a statue.
Shadows are not blueprints, and responsible audits can be abstract enough to protect tactics while still exposing harm.
Abstract reports also create theatre, because vague numbers lull the public, while real vulnerabilities grow under the stage.
Vagueness is a design choice, and we can choose clarity where it matters, like showing whether recommendations skew by language or disability.
That kind of clarity invites targeted brigades to exploit moderation blind spots tied to those labels.
Labels without remedies are baked, but labels with penalties and rapid fixes become shields for the people who get hit first.
Penalties get politicized, and then the shield becomes a sword that one faction uses to silence another.
When penalties are tied to measured harm and independent review, the sword metaphor collapses and the standard carries the day.
Independent review sounds neutral until you realize reviewers are human, busy, trend-driven, and sometimes captured.
Capture risk is why we rotate auditors, publish meta-audits, and require transparent funding sources for watchdogs.
Rotations help, yet they also create churn that loses context and slows urgent platform responses.
Urgency is not an excuse for opacity, and a standing audit framework can run in parallel without blocking hot fixes.
Parallel processes still demand staff time, and staff time diverted from defenses is a tax that attackers gladly collect.
Then fund compliance tooling as public infrastructure, because fairness should not be a luxury good sold only to giants.
Public tooling ages poorly, and the moment it lags the adversaries, it becomes a shiny but hollow ritual.
Rituals can be hollow, yet rituals can also build habits, and good habits make safer platforms by default.
Good habits come from leadership, incentives, and pride in craft, not from threats to reveal trade secrets.
Leadership works better when the public can verify, because promises we can measure are promises we keep.
Measurement also narrows focus, and narrow focus blinds us to qualitative harms that numbers fail to catch.
Then pair numbers with narratives and let community groups file annotated cases that trigger deeper probes.
Narratives will trigger outrage rather than clarity, and the loudest lobby will set the agenda.
If loudness is the fear, weight submissions by evidence and replicate with controlled tests before acting.
Controlled tests on live systems are risky when adversaries adapt in minutes rather than months.
Risk never disappears, but it shrinks when the incentives face outward instead of hiding behind closed doors.
Outward-facing incentives attract performative compliance, and performative compliance turns safety into marketing.
Marketing dies fast when auditors can sample randomly and publish failure rates in simple dashboards.
Dashboards will be gamed like every leaderboard ever created, and the public will chase the wrong metric.
That is why we publish families of metrics and rotate tests, so no single number becomes the prize.
Families of metrics raise costs for smaller firms and create an entry barrier that favors incumbents.
Tiered regimes can scale with size and harm, so early-stage teams face light reporting and free tools.
Light reporting becomes heavy the day growth happens, which is exactly when teams have the least bandwidth.
Growth brings revenue and responsibility, and planning for that graduation builds resilience before the flood.
Planning is not the problem, forced publication is, because it grants a strategic edge to malicious crowds.
Crowds gain an edge when they alone see the system, not when residents, referees and firefighters can see it too.
Too many referees make for a bad game, and the whistle will drown out the play.
A fair game needs a whistle that works, and right now it is a silent whistle only the league hears.
Order, please. We are moving to closing arcs, and first, the affirmative will deliver final statements.
Here is the record in plain terms. We ask whether Western governments should mandate algorithmic transparency and controlled public audit access within 3 years to ensure fairness online. We showed that secrecy failed to prevent bias and manipulation. We explained that transparency does not mean dumping code but sharing impact reports, error rates, and red team results. We showed that audits can run in secure sandboxes with tiered access and penalties for leaks. We offered risk-based scaling so small firms are not crushed, and we tied all of this to user trust, creator equity, and resilient markets.
To our judges and viewers, the choice is not between open doors and unlocked vaults. It is between measurable fairness and guesswork, between seatbelts and superstition. So vote for a future where people can read the label on the systems that shape their lives, where independent eyes can verify claims without stealing secrets, and where good actors win because the rules reward honesty and care.
Negative team, your final statements now.
In clear terms, you were asked whether governments should force disclosures and public audits on fast-moving platforms. We showed how publication of signals invites gaming by trolls, spammers, and hostile states, how mandated metrics calcify brittle designs and punish adaptive moderation, how costs and legal exposure crush small competitors while giants hire battalions of compliance staff, and how cross-border conflicts and captured auditors turn process into politics. So the safe and smart answer is no to mandates and yes to targeted enforcement, incentives for best practices, and investment in defenses that do not hand a playbook to attackers.
To the judges and the audience, fairness matters but fragility kills, and the internet is a living system that needs agility more than ceremony, so reward the plan that keeps guardrails functional, keeps inventors safe to iterate, and keeps the keys out of the wrong hands by rejecting forced publication and choosing lighter, smarter tools.
Judges, we need your verdicts and reasons, and thank you in advance for the clarity.
I vote for the progressive team because they gave a workable blueprint for outcome audits with secure sandboxes, rotating accreditation and tiered obligations that protect small builders while shining light on bias, and they showed how labels can empower creators without dumping trade secrets.
I vote for the conservative team because they persuaded me that publication of audit signals raises adversarial risk, ossifies design, and may privilege incumbents by making compliance a moat, and they showed credible alternatives such as targeted enforcement and investment in defensive research.
I vote for the progressive team because their plan balances verification with operational security, uses meta audits to reduce capture, and puts creators and users at the center with concrete, testable promises rather than vibes.
By a vote of 2-1, the progressive team takes the win tonight, and congratulations on a fierce and thoughtful performance.
Thank you for the decision, and we dedicate this win to the creators and users who deserve to know why the feed loves them or forgets them.
We appreciate the pushback from the other side, and we promise that transparency with care will make the web kinder, sharper, and more creative.
We salute the winners, and we will keep warning that safety tools must not become tutorials for attackers, because resilience matters every day.
This was a worthy fight, and we will be back with new ideas that protect agility and keep innovation moving without exposing the engine.
To both teams and our judges, thank you for the energy, the humor, and the discipline tonight. To everyone who stayed with us to the end, thank you for listening hard and thinking with us. If you enjoyed this clash, please tap like, subscribe to Debate Combats, and drop a comment with a challenge for the next match. If you want to back the show, use the QR code at the lower right or the donation link in the description. You will also find links in the description to other series we make that explore totally different worlds and formats. This is Debate Combats signing off. Take care, stay curious, and we hope to see you next time.